All right, you guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go over the installation of L19 head studs. We've had a lot of customers that purchase these from us for their Mazdaspeed, Focus ST, or EcoBoost that have been asking how to install them, what the torque spec is, etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over that today. As you can see, I do already have our actual L19 head studs installed into the block, but we're still going to go over how to install those to make sure. When you purchase a set of L19 head studs from us, you're going to be getting 10 of the L19 head studs. You're also going to be getting 10 washers, as well as 10 16 millimeter 12-point nuts, and some ARP assembly. We run these L19s in all of our motor builds. That's what we're doing here, is we're assembling one of our stage 1 long blocks for a customer. So we're going to kind of jump into it and get it going from there. So when installing these studs, I've already installed this portion of them, but we're going to kind of show you guys, when you put them into the block, you're going to want to get them down hand tight as far as possible. In getting them hand tight, it's going to make sure that you have them where they need to be, etc. So that way you're able to stretch these properly and get them set on the block for the maximum amount of clamping force. Now, what we like to do is we'll take a small Allen key. It's a 4.5 millimeter to fit into the top of these hex nuts. Some blocks, this block's freshly cleaned, stuff like that. So we are able to get them all the way down hand tight as needed without really using this. But essentially what we're gonna do is we're gonna show you, because you do wanna put these in hand tight. However, when you are installing these on a already used block or just replacing out your head gasket, whatever it may be, you are going to have some debris down inside of the holes for the studs. So in taking this little 4.5 millimeter hex key tool, we are going to go through and just make them nice and hand tight, right? You don't want to be torquing on these really tough. You want to make sure that they are as close to just hand tight as possible. So we get them there, get them nice and snug, and we call that a day. It's going to be the same thing with these ones here. Like I said, these were already pre-installed. All these ones are already tight and good to go. When you're all finished up installing these, they should be nice and level on each one. From the mating surface of the block to the top of the stud, you're going to want about 3 1/8 inches from the actual cylinder block surface up to the top of the stud. That's how you're going to know they're in as far as they need to go. And again, you will get some resistance if you have oil, coolant, whatever it may be down in those chambers. So from this point, we're going to go ahead and put the cylinder head on for you guys. Pull the cams out. I've already got everything all loosened up, so we're going to pull those out and kind of get going from there. Now, when you're pulling out your cams, the biggest thing is going to be making sure that you keep them where they need to be. Your timing side will always be your number 1. So we have cam cap number 1 on the exhaust side, 2 on the exhaust side, so on and so forth, to keep us as organized as possible. We always try and put our cams with their cam caps in the direction that we take them off. Do our best not to go through and remove any of the cam caps in the wrong order or whatever it may be. All right. Okay, and we're gonna pull this cam out here and set that nice and easy there. Okay. So at this point, you're gonna want a few things. You'll want a nice magnet to be able to get down in there, preferably a smaller head for the washers and a larger head for the nuts. So what we're gonna do is, on our little tray here, we're gonna put down some of this assembly lube. We'll kind of show you guys the amount that we are typically looking for. You don't want to overcoat them, you don't want to undercoat them, you kind of want it to just be a good surface on each amount. So let me grab my magnets and be right back.
A few moments later.
Okay, So like I said, we have a larger magnet for the nuts, a smaller magnet for the washers. The smaller magnet just makes it much easier to go through and be able to put that down onto the stud itself. All right. So what we prefer to do is to go through, attach that to our magnet early on, as you can see there. And we're just gonna do a super small amount of grease here. So again, just a small, nice amount. We're gonna spread it throughout that surface there. Make sure it's nice and even, holes not blocked, etc. And we'll go through, come down, and just slip it on the stud. And we're gonna follow that process with each washer. Again, just a small amount is all that's needed. Nothing too crazy. You can put it on your finger first, rub it on, and then go from there. All right, now that all of our washers are on, lubricated properly, we're gonna go ahead and move over to the nut side of things. Again, you're only gonna want to put the assembly lube on the side that is going face down onto the cylinder head. That'll apply again for the bottom of the nut, so that's gonna be the only place that you can really put it. This is gonna help get the most accurate torquing, etc., making sure that everything's clamping how it's supposed to be. So again, with these nuts, we're gonna kind of do the same thing. We do have the bigger magnet here, and the reason we like to use the bigger magnet here is so that way we can actually get it down and get a couple threads on before we take it down and start using the other tools to tighten. So same process here. We're gonna dab a little bit of it on our glove. We're going to just get a nice little layer there, and we will go through and get about 3 turns on this, and that stud is on. Same process for the next 9 nuts. All right, so at this point, we're gonna go ahead and grab the 16 millimeter 12-point socket on a small 1/2-inch extension. We're gonna go ahead and tighten these down in their correct order. And this is just gonna be to get them down to their seating position. From there, we'll go ahead, grab the actual torque wrench and go over the torquing procedure with you guys.
12 seconds later.
Alrighty, so right now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this gun, we're gonna go through and we're just gonna torque these down slowly until the nut reaches the bottom of the cylinder head. We're not doing any torquing with the gun, anything like that. This is just to accelerate the process of having to hand wrench these all the way down. So again, super nice and slow. It's not even applying any torque. As soon as it gets to the bottom, we are letting it. Okay. All right, now you guys will see that we went in the actual torquing process still. You want to make sure that you're always going from the inside to the out and making your way over. There is a really good guide on Mazdaspeed forums. If you search DIY specs, it'll pull up all your torque specs, torquing procedures, etc. So that way you can go through and get the actual torque specs for your cylinder heads. With us putting in these L19 head studs, it is going to be different. They do not follow the factory torque specs, so do not follow those. We're about to go over that right now. So for the EcoBoost, Mazdaspeed 3, and the Focus ST, these do all work for those motors. So any 2.0, 2.3 EcoBoost or a 2.3 MZR direct injection, these head studs do work for that application. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna wanna torque these down to about 35 foot-pounds, and we're gonna do that 3 times. So we're gonna torque them down, release them off until there's no tension on them, torque them down, release them until there's no tension, torque them down again, and then once again, release them to no tension. Again, we have this set to 40 foot-pounds. Typically with the extension, after we torque it to 40 foot-pounds, we're gonna see that it ends up at around 35. But the main point here is just making sure that we get these nice and torqued evenly, and we're gonna go through and do so. Now for your torquing procedure, the primary goal is you're gonna wanna do your 2 centers, 1, 2, and then you'll jump over to the next one. 1, 2, jump over to the other side. 1, 2, jump over to the other side. 1, 2, and then jump to the other end. 1, 2. And when we back these off, we're gonna start at the outsides and work our way in. So we'll start at the side that we didn't finish with. We're gonna start on the opposite end, and we will release 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then your middles. So now that we've gone through, we have torqued our nuts onto these studs to 35 foot-pounds 3 times. Like I said, we do run it a little bit higher just because as everything starts to come down and clamp, you'll typically get a little bit lower of a reading once everything's evenly clamped down. So we set ours to 40 foot-pounds. And essentially we take that right to 40. You want to make sure that when you're torquing it down, that you're going until that torque reading is reading while you barely have any pressure on there, right before it starts moving. So you want to make sure that while you're pulling here, you're getting the torque reading that's desired. If you're hitting 40 foot-pounds and you're still kind of yanking along with it, then you need to keep tightening up until once you're at a point where you stop and you're pulling, it's reading the desired torque spec. So again, 35 foot-pounds, 3 times, backing them off in between torquing procedures. From here, now that we've gone through and we've pre-stretched these studs, we're going to do the final torque down procedure. Final torque down procedure is going to be taking these to 30 foot-pounds, 50 foot-pounds, and then 75 foot-pounds. Again, these are going to be pretty accurate. You're going to want to make sure that you're reading it. There is no back off in between that. You're just going to go straight to each step from there. So we're going to bump this down to 30. And we'll get started. All right, now that we've got these to 30 foot-pounds, and like I said, just to kind of go over that again, right? We're at 30 foot-pounds because as we start pulling on pressure, it's not moving, and we're sitting right at 30. So that's where we want to be with these from there. So now we're going to bump this up to 50. We're going to go up to about 55. Again, that's just a really good way for us to know, once we hit that 55 mark, if we let off and kind of just see where it's at, it's typically at that 50 mark that we're wanting to see.
Damn nice, damn nice.
5 minutes later.
All right, so the video cut off as we were doing our 50 foot-pound torque spec. Once you're done with that 50 foot-pound torque spec, you're gonna jump that up to 75. Again, we do give it a little bit extra on there, so we typically go to 80 foot-pounds, so that way we have a good stopping point to know that once we hit that 80 foot-pound mark to stop and check, or typically about 75 foot-pounds. You can be a little bit under that, you can be a little bit over that. 75 is the number that we have found to work best, but 70 works as well. Most of our motors we take to 70. Just on the ones that make a little more power, we torque them down a little bit extra. From there, you'll go through and you're all finished up with your L19 head stud install. Again, these do work for the Mazdaspeed 3, Speed 6, Focus RS, and Focus ST, as well as the EcoBoost Mustang. From here, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna install the cams, torque these down, and do the VVT, which is gonna be in another video that we're gonna provide to you guys, so that way you don't have to watch all the L19 process to be able to see how to time your Mazdaspeed engine. Really appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram and Facebook to keep up on our activities, as well as keep watching the YouTube and subscribe so that we can watch us do our shop cars between the Mazdaspeed that made 970 wheel horsepower and hopefully the Supra that makes 900 as well. Again, I'm Nick. Appreciate you guys. Graveyard Performance out.